There we go. Good evening, everyone. NHPUK, John Lawrence here. My special guest tonight, Chief Moody and No Chance. And you must know these guys. They're all over Telegram, Twitter and social media and that. And they certainly are well known to me and to other people I know. But thank you very much, guys, for coming on.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us on.
Aye, cheers, John.
I'm not sure of your political leanings. Who's with who group? Are you with any particular groups, you two?
Well, I'll start off if that's all right, because I think I'm with a particular political group at the moment. I'm with the Patriotic Alternative. I've been a member for the past, I think it's coming up to 2 years now, or something like that. But yeah, it's been really great work from what I've seen, and I'm really glad that I'm part of that organization. The only downside of it, of course, is the whole electoral commission still not allowing them to become a full-fledged political party. But hopefully one day that they might get passed through and do become an official political party here in Britain. So, well, that's fingers crossed with that. Hopefully one day. So,
David, good evening, sir.
John, how are you? Are you well?
I'm good. How are you, and how's your family?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. John, where are we on at the moment? Are we on the NHP YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do me a favour. Has anyone tweeted that out? Because I can tweet that I'm live just now. Is that on Twitter anywhere?
You tweet away, but it is being shared now. And I have done some sending out, but you do whatever you need.
I think more people are watching the Kanye West interview. Have you guys seen any of it?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I mean,
it's
I know. I mean, like, there's actually so many theories now, like, about where he's going, and like, is he just saying stuff to be deliberately provocative? Is like people saying now, like, it's like it's gone so off the charts now, you know? But I mean, look, see, if you believe in free speech, which I do, I believe in free speech. People should be allowed to say whatever they want. And yeah, it might be offensive. Yeah, it might be very, very hurtful. But, you know, what's worse is denying people the right to express their views.
Couldn't agree more, David. I'm hidden in the background. You don't see me on the screen. I'm like God speaking to everyone. But
John, you're looking like a real jock there with your CU Jimmy hat on and your tartan. Because this St Andrew's Day was yesterday, was it not? Though
it certainly was. It certainly was.
I know. Well, where are you, Chief Moody? Where are you, sir?
Where I'm based? Do you mean?
Yeah, where are you based?
I'm based in Falkirk.
Falkirk. All right. Okay. Cool. That wee twang, you hear it? It's funny, isn't it? 5 minutes out of Glasgow, and everyone. 5 minutes out of Glasgow, and everyone. Hey, Ken, you're 2 minutes out of Glasgow, and everyone's talking with this weird accent.
Aye. Everyone was just like, "What are they saying?" It's just.
I know. They were once wanting to do a CSI Falkirk, you know, and where like they examined things, but they couldn't do it because they found out everybody had the same DNA.
I'm stealing that one.
I know. And it's like, or you go up, and the guy says, "This is my wife and my sister," and there's only one woman with him.
David, so have you done any work with UK Column?
I know Dave Scott, and obviously I follow UK Column. I mean, do you know what's an amazing thing about UK Column is they've been around for years. You know, they really, really have. And, you know, they were there when we first started. And then obviously now they're one of the big cheesies. But, you know, for many years, they did work. They did a lot of good work on Melanie Shaw. I know you were involved with Melanie Shaw as well, John, weren't you?
Yeah.
I remember you doing streams about that. So, yeah, I know Dave Scott, and I follow their work. And I'm not like, I've had Dave Scott on the show. We've also had Alex Thompson on as well. So, yeah, good people.
Yeah. I mean, I like UK Column. You're right. They've been going years. They started off just a little bit of a blog, and then they progressed, and now they're on the video show every day. Yeah, I managed to get to talk to Brian Garish once about the child sexual exploitation review in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire.
No, I mean, they were speaking out about this stuff years and years ago, especially like common purpose infiltration as well, and the way that's, you know, taken such a role. And I mean, look, we're living in it now. You know, what guys like Brian Garish was warning for years, and people before him, and like even Alex Jones as well. You know, we're living it now. You know, and it's this grim reality we're living in, isn't it?
Yeah. So what made you form Unity News Network? What pushed you in that direction?
Well, it was actually very interesting, because when initially I was like campaigning against Scottish independence. Then I thought, you know, about Brexit. But what I saw back in 2017, along with my colleague Carol Pearson, I had the idea, and then Carl and I put it together, was the media were trying to overturn a democratic referendum. Like they were trying to change a vote by working with the powers that be, working with the establishment. And you could really just see it coming. And that was 2017. And I realized we needed a different perspective. And, you know, you see, and the other big one that we were involved with at the very start was when Tommy Robinson was first arrested and first put in jail. And like, it was the fact that the media were just nakedly lying. And again, people have different opinions on Tommy, and I understand that, but they were lying about him. And I just thought, like, surely there's a market there for someone who's not deliberately telling lies.
Well, I think that's one of the things that pushed me as well. Was the lies off the media around that time, and there's been even I've had the same thing done to me, and you know, like I'll never look back. I'll never regret what I'm doing now, but I am going to push forward. I'm going to run in councils. I'm just going to be a thorn in the side until they change. And but yeah, I saw all that, and that was a big thing with me. The lies of the media. Now they are judge, jury, and executioner.
It was, and that's really what that again. That was where I really started to see, and then like Channel 4 and The Guardian did pieces on us, and that was years ago, and it just really woke me up to just how vile they are. I mean, they really are. They're vile human beings. The mainstream media, like, you might not agree with our content, you might not agree with our politics, but we don't dox people. We don't turn up at their front door. We don't ruin their lives. We don't go after Joe Public. We talk about people in positions of power and influence. But as I said, the media, they really are. They're scum. And you look at this case today about the hussy, the royal situation. You know, an 83-year-old woman who probably said something that in today's terms would be considered insensitive, but the media are basically trying to make out this woman's like blooming Elsa Cock, you know, like
honestly,
Richard Belson or something like that. You know, it's vile, and like the power. I mean, that's an 83-year-old woman whose life's like she's ruined. Like she's ruined her life overnight.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching videos. I just watched a video on TikTok by a Jamaican woman.
Yeah.
Who was absolutely giving that woman who's claimed racism an hard time, saying it was nothing of the sort. In different situations, she would demanded that people respect where she was from and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just ridiculous. It's scary, actually, Dave and guys. It's really scary because how quick you can be cancelled, losing your job and stuff like that. It's proper scary.
This is the equivalent of the Salem witch trials or McCarthyism in the 1950s. If you put one foot wrong, you're finished. And like what was she saying that was racist? I mean, I don't even recognize a lot of the term racist anyway, but what she was just asking where she was from, you know, like, and people do stuff like that. You know, if I was abroad in, I don't know, Nigeria, and someone said, "Oh, where are you from originally?" Am I going to take offense at that? I'm a white guy. Like, of course I'm not originally from Nigeria. And she wasn't asking out of badness, but the way I mean, I think in many ways, though, I think the media are deliberately trying to whip up racial conflict, you know, and actually push people to even more extremes. I mean, because that's what they do. You know, and you know this, John. You frequent what would be considered more right-wing circles. We're much more open-minded. You know, we're actually able to have conversations about things.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's you know, the local. It's like we have the local press here, and I mean, now I'm running in elections, and they do have a press section. Now, what I want to do is get somebody in the press section who's not going to be biased towards me. So I'm going to invite anyone who's got citizen journalists standing, you know, to come to like the press when we have an election. It's a big election in Oldham next year, guys. It's a massive election. It's a full election because they've had boundary changes, and Labour are down to 34 out of 60 seats, and it's very likely that they'll lose a majority next year. So it's a massive election in Oldham, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I haven't got me to grasp with the Scottish elections yet because they're a little bit different. But I haven't got to grasp with that. But it's a big election for me. We are at the moment. I've got a shout out into the chat. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're about 80 and 90 quid short on money for 20,000 recruitment leaflets. So if anyone would like to donate, I'll get the link in the chat soon, or you can find it in the description. But we're about 80 and 90 quid short of the money we need for 20,000 recruitment leaflets. Some are going into Oldham. I'm sending some up to Scotland. And before I go on again, I just want to a big shout out to Davy and Caroline, who are in Scotland. They're part of the Scottish Justice team. So they go around catching paedophiles and stuff like that. They also oust paedophiles who've changed their names. And we know that Scotland, there's more than 500 paedophiles running around with changed names, and nobody knows nothing about them. So big shout out to Davey and Caroline who came up this week visiting. But great work they do up there, and keep it up, guys.
That's such an important thing. I'm sure you probably saw the story about the 14-year-old girl raped by what the media called a trans person. I mean, it was a man raped a 14-year-old girl and got her pregnant. Like there's some real sickos out there, you know, and like it's frightening. Like when you see that there's people out there doing stuff like that, you know, nutters, and you've got to protect our family. And like you were saying about Scottish politics, John, and it's just Scotland's a weird place, you know, and I'm sure Mr. Moody will recognise that as well. Like it's just a weird place in terms of politics and the way things have gone, and you know, the SNP they've capitalised, and I think just on the whole, most people are just zoned out. They just don't bother anymore, you know, and that is a problem. People they're sick of it. They're, to use a good Scottish word, they're scunnered. They're scunnered with it all.
That's what I always say about Scottish politics. The SNP would be nowhere near power if people get off their arse and voted. But it's this perception of success that they put out there in the media. Anytime they've got a moment on the television, it looks like the SNP are like basically Nicola Sturgeon's the Queen of Scotland, when in reality, the majority of people fucking hate her. But
yeah, they do. I mean, I was talking to a guy the other day. Yeah, they do, and that's the other thing is as well about the media. The media exerts so much power, and the media up here. And John, you'll realise this with local journalism. Local journalism's terrible. The reason being, it's all funded by government. Like if government doesn't advertise with these local papers, they're knackered. Whereas local papers used to be advertised by small to medium local businesses, so they've got to toe the line. And I actually think local media is some of the most woke, closed-minded activist rubbish there is out there, because most of the time it's like a student straight out of university, so they're totally indoctrinated.
Yeah, it's just awful up here. There was one point I wanted to make in regards to like Scottish politics in terms of any other political party there is, and why the SNP are pretty much every single time there's like an election, they pretty much dominate all those elections. There really isn't any other political party here in Scotland that people want to vote for as an alternative. I mean, we have the Scottish Labour, Scottish Tories, Lib Dems, the Scottish Greens. I mean, there's really no any other better alternative. So I think that's why many people will just maybe hesitantly just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to vote for the SNP because, well, for two reasons. One is because there's no any other political party as an alternative. And two, they just think, well, the SNP are a pretty big party here in Scotland, so they're going to win the vote anyway. And it's like, well, if you're sick and tired of it, then like No Chance said just now, get off your arses and actually go out and cast a vote. Just vote anybody else other than the SNP. If you're just really sick and tired of them, vote anyone else other than the Scottish National Party. And when it comes to the Scottish National Party, I use the term national or nationalist like very loosely regarding to that.
Nationalists.
Because they're nothing but nationalists. Yeah, like
no, they're not.
they're anything but.
What age are you, Chief? What age are you, sir?
I'm 28 years old.
You're 28, so I'm 40. Like, I remember when they brought in the Scottish Parliament, and I was totally opposed to it at the time. You know, that was like 97, 98, because I could see where it was heading, and I remember that. Like, I hated. I mean, I was like a real Tory boy when I was young, but I hated Blairism, and I could see where it was leading the country. And you know, now we're living in it. Now we're living in this hell, and the Scottish Parliament is just a job creator for like talentless people. And what is it? I mean, if I was in charge tomorrow, I would get rid of the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Assembly, Northern Ireland Assembly as well. You don't need all these layers of bureaucracy. Like you just don't. It's just a nonsense. So it is, and the turnout's what, like 52% as well at Scottish elections.
It was really low.
But the SNP benefit from the layers of bureaucracy because they can do anything and everything. They inevitably fail miserably, and then they can blame the bureaucracy that is Westminster. It's their fault. It's nothing to do with us. It's their go-to.
Yeah,
it's ace up their sleeve.
It's just so easy. The other problem you've got in Scotland is you do have such a big public sector as well, and you've got a huge client vote. So people that work for the NHS, they work for Inland Revenue, well, HMRC as it's called, the police, or they're teachers, or they work for a local council. So, you know, they know where their bread's buttered. That's the other big problem here.
Yeah, certainly is. But I mean, all I'm going to say to people who are on the board, and I do get angry over this because, like, some people are really ignorant. If you're going to complain about politics and say it's fake and all that, but you've never ran as a candidate, how do you know? How do you know if you don't know about the council and electoral and voting? If you know that it's fake, we've got history with voter fraud in Oldham, and in the candidate meeting before the last election, I brought it up, and you should have seen how silent the chief executive was and how they didn't want to say anything. And I was bringing up bona fide or stuff, and while I'm being a candidate now, I'm going to question all these things. I'm going to question, do we have are the boxes all securely sealed and no one goes in them? I'm going to question all this, and it's up to us to do that. And again, like you said, people just need to go out and vote.
I was actually a councillor back in 2007. I was elected as a councillor, and I kid you not, see in the last, well, I stepped down in 2012. See in the last 10 years, the deterioration is just, it's unbelievable. The caliber of politician, the integrity of elections as well, and it's just in such a short period of time, and the way in which it's just been like transformed. And like we don't have independence. Like once upon a time you had independence, people who were independently minded, people who didn't go along with everything. I mean, look at Westminster. You've got 659 MPs, and on all the main issues they agree with everything. Like they don't. I want Ukraine, a certain thing they wanted people to put in their arms, I won't mention on YouTube. Not one person turned around and said, well, let's just maybe take a different look at it. Like, that's not a democracy. That's not healthy.
The green agenda, immigration.
Green agenda, immigration, yeah, exactly. And you know, you're given this illusion that they're actually having this debate, and there is, but they're not. They're all on the same page on everything. And that's why, you know, like I always try and support anybody and everybody who is trying to do something, and outflank these people like yourselves, like other groups and organizations out there, because we can't not do something. You know, it's the easy thing to do is sit and moan. And I mean, I'm very black-pilled about democracy. You know, I'm very off with it. But it's like signing a petition. Like everybody says petitions don't get us anywhere. Yeah, but we still need to keep signing them. You know, we still need to keep sending letters. We still need to keep doing the basics, or else nothing will ever change.
Go on, No Chance. Let's get you on. Come on. So everyone can hear you then, even though they can't see you.
I know. Hello. The voice in the background. I don't know why my avatar's not on screen. That's bizarre.
It's weird.
Are you going to sing a song there? Hello.
I better not. I was going to ask, what's your opinion, David, on them kind of stacking like councillors and MSPs? Like they're putting them in like easy winnable seats, let's see, guaranteed seats, and they're just stacking them full of like minority candidates that don't have any qualifications. It's just because they look how they are. In fact, see that 90-year-old woman you were talking about that was getting hounded for asking someone where they're from. It reminds me of that councillor Graham Campbell. Do you know him?
Remind me.
He's the guy who's got the very strong English accent.
Yeah.
He wears Jamaican clothing, and he thinks it's racist if people ask him, "Where are you from?" And he goes, "But I'm Scottish." And you're like, "Oh, I'm Scottish." Well, he's wearing Jamaican garb, and you're like, "How the fuck is that racist?" That's anything but.
Yeah. Like as you say, like basically, and people recognise that you're now in a position where you're able to get based where you are on your ethnicity, and there's no merit. Like I believe in a meritocracy, and like there's no meritocracy here at all. It's just whether you tick a box, and you wonder why our health service is collapsing. You wonder why the roads are collapsing, because it's just box ticking exercise, and all this affirmative action, you know, gender quotas. It's hellish. And yeah, that's what they do, these parties, and they just because it looks good, it's good optics, but what's their qualifications? And the thing is as well, like people are going to realize this. Like you're going to go and stand for office, and I'm going to get a cushy job here and an easy number, and it's just it's brutal.
It also kills community though, because a lot of people that would get involved in like councillor positions cared about their community, and it was all about like that was the kind of driver for them to get into it. But now it's just, as you say, box ticking, making things look good. And that Talat Yaqub, she's the one that put that woman 50-50 thing in the Scottish Parliament. But she's now moving from the women thing to the minority quotas, and so her full career is oppression Olympics, try to tick boxes, optics, and it's, as you say, it should be merit based. If someone is of a different complexion and they've got something else between their legs and they're best for the job, fucking fill your boots. But that's not what we're seeing now. It's just a stacked game.
I mean, I am a pragmatist and a realist as well. Like, I think politics should, as best possible, reflect society. But you need to let that happen naturally. Like, just forcing it in that 50-50 women shortlist. Again, it forces it, and it's not real and it's not natural, and it just lowers the caliber of people getting involved in politics. And I also think as well, for people who do get into these positions, everybody just starts saying, well, are you there based on your ability, or are you there because you tick a box? And like, it actually does the reverse of what they're actually looking to try and achieve. It's forced equality. I mean, you will never ever have equality of outcome, right? You can try and aspire for equality of opportunity. I don't think that's possible. You will never get equality of outcome. World doesn't work like that.
They've now moved from equality to equity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new thing. So,
yeah. If I may, maybe if you guys wouldn't mind, I can give a little bit of a hot take in terms of what's going on just now with that. Now, what we're just discussing just now in terms of like the pro-immigration aspect of it all, the diversity quotas and all of that, would it be fair to say that all of that's happening just now, especially here in Scotland, maybe is all done by design? As what I would mean to say in this case is maybe it's all done in terms of the purpose to try and replace the native Scots who are living here just now.
I could tell you my conspiracy angle from it. I think the whole representation push is, it's to give you this false perception of you're already a minority. So that if you stack the parliaments, the council seats, the TV ads, like programs you're watching, movies, you kind of let people watching, just consuming entertainment and not getting involved in their community and the way they used to. They just assume we're already there. And then when the census results come out and all these other things happen, they kind of go, well, I kind of thought that anyway. It's like, I think the uprising.
the stats was that the ONS, I think 2.5% of the population is black. Now you turn on the television, you would think it was 70%, you know, and it's just, it's so in your face. But again, people are terrified to even mention that. Like what do I think's going on? I mean, obviously there are bigger plans at play, and I think there are lots of agendas and taking place. A lot of disrupting the West, cultural Marxist, other groups as well. And I think the biggest factor is people are just terrified of being called a racist, and they're just prepared to go along and watch it happen for fear of being called a racist. And that's the main thing, because again, you know what happens to you if you're a racist. You lose your house, you lose your job, you lose your family, you lose your friends. And like, in many ways, that's a bigger punishment than it used to be. Like, putting someone in jail almost made them a martyr, whereas just socially isolating them now is a far more probably effective tool of social control.
I think it also really determines, I think I was just about to say, I think it kind of also depends on the person's situation regarding to that. I mean, I can completely understand the idea that people don't want to speak out about the real problems we're facing just now, the actual truths in terms of that, because of the fear of the hammer of the state being, you know, bashed onto them. But I think what people need to realize at this point in time is that at this point in time, we need to do something about it, because it's only just going to get worse and worse and worse from here. It's not going to get any better. So all the people who may be complaining about it, again, some part of me that does understand it because of that fear of the state, but it's come to the point now where it's like, we need to do something about it. And take it from me, by the way, again, I'm not want to be the one to kind of toot my own horn or anything like that at all, but prior to like maybe last year, I was anonymous. So because I started doing all this content creating back in 2018. I was a civic nationalist, but then became more like an ethno-nationalist or just a nationalist in general back in 2020. And I was still anonymous until last year in November. I was doxxed by Hope Not Hate. Now, of course, a lot of people were just asking me, like, "Oh, well, that's horrible. Are you okay?" and all of that. And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm fine." You know, I've even since then, like, it's been a year later. I've not had the police come to my door. I've not had counterterrorism or anything like that at all. Not had Hope Not Hate or any other journalist would want to.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the end of the world. I mean,
Yeah, it's not. It's not. No, it's definitely
It's
not. Again, this is only just, you know, from my own personal perspective. I know it might be entirely different from everyone else with that, but again, just take it from me. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened. And even after that whole doxing thing happened, I'm still doing nationalism. I'm still going out leafleting. I'm still doing banner drops. I'm still doing everything I can to spread the message out there that, look, this is what's going on. Here are the truths.
Mm-hmm.
You might not like it, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it needs to be called out for what it is.
And again, just like, I think there's so many different ways you can argue it, and you know, and I mean, there obviously is a big debate. How do you do it? But when you're speaking with normies, I think you there has to be a cognizance that you can't like go out and immediately start taking them to where you are. It is a journey. But like, I think just to say to people, like, you look at any historical country or any historical nation that has been overwhelmed by floods of immigration, illegal and refugees, it always collapses. Like, I'm sure during like the 5th century in Rome, there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is really enriching. This is making Rome stronger, and everything's going to be fine." I'm sure there was the same people then, but you know, that's what we're going through, and it's just, it's like, it's funny as well. Like, I often think about this. If you're an immigrant, you're coming here because this is a white country. Like, and you do get a lot of people saying that. It's, look, if you're not a white country anymore, then geez, like, you'll end up like the countries we left. So, you know, it is such a hard one, and this is the difficulty, is how can you tailor our argument, you know, like to like, I don't think you need to pander. I don't think you need, like, again, this is the mistake conservatives make, is they pander on race issues, and instead of just being honest, saying, look, this is a disaster for everybody, and mass immigration needs to stop because the country's full. It's not working for anybody.
Well, the problem. Oh, sorry, just real quick.
No, go on. You go.
With the problem with the current Tory party, like mainly in Westminster, is that they're anything but Tory. They're basically the same with Labour. They're two sides of the same coin. There's really no entire difference whatsoever. At this point in time, the way I see it, as Labour are basically full far left, like you can say communists basically at this point, whereas the current Tory party or Conservative, they're almost in a way, well, maybe not almost, but they're kind of entirely like soft liberal.
It's continuity Blairism. Basically, you've had a Blairite government since 1997. You've had 25 years of Blairism, in my opinion.
That's exactly what it is, and I think, I mean, that's pretty much part of the problem with that in this case when it comes to the Tory party. So.
Yeah, and it's just to give people the choice, but I mean, like, it's just again, and I mean, I watched the Jason Cohen Mark Collette interview. Did you guys watch that? Did you watch that? I mean, I thought there was good points made on both sides, you know, and again, and I do argue this is, like, we have our message, and people on the internet, they want to hear it and they want it to go further, but it's, what is the message to reach that broad appeal? What, like, of people, and like to bring them in, and there really isn't an easy answer to that, you know. And like, I understand all sides of the argument. It's like, some people say, like, oh, well, the UKIP managed to achieve what the BNP never did, but then others would argue that the UKIP destroyed the BNP, and that, like, Pat McGuinness was on the other night saying that, and that was a bad thing. And I just think what we need to aspire to, I think, is to have as broad a framework for a populist freedom sort of nationalist movement in this country that can win 30 to 40% of the vote. And yes, you may not agree with everything they say. Yes, you may feel they are soft on certain issues, but it's like if you were in France and it was a choice between Marine Le Pen or Emmanuel Macron, you know, who would you choose? And I like, but what I'm trying to get is that Marine Le Pen, obviously Jean-Marie Le Pen, it's tough, but or there is the other thing, and this is what I kind of keeps me going, is that there will be a societal collapse, there will be an economic breakdown, and people will seek answers, and they will realize that only people who are shooting straight from the hip and are telling the truth will provide those answers. Because I just think with the control the media has, with the power of the mainstream media, it's hard to break that down. And the security services, the power, you know, like what you're fighting against, like the way they can get in and destroy things, it's tough. You know, it's tough times. There's no point in lying about it.
Right, I'm weighing in. So you talked about councils electing people to council, and yeah, we do. We elect people to councillors and positions who tick the right boxes. That is across the country. No town, nowhere in the UK is that not prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the people we're putting in can't do the jobs properly. We've got a health centre that's been run by a doctor who was given full control over it, and he's failed. He's failed in the health centre. And, you know, I'm the first person to say that we shouldn't be hiring for ticking boxes. We should be hiring for skill, but we don't. And that's why that's why our councils have gone down in levels. That's why our councils are rubbish now. You know, they don't have anything. They're full of all these crime things.
That's right. I mean, it's like if you want to build a rainbow road crossing, then there would be no problems whatsoever to create that. But if you actually want to fill a pothole, then it's never going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. Honestly, they don't have any money. Oldham, we have each year our child tax credit bill or family tax credit bill is £500 million. That's £500 million, and there's only 2 or 3 other places in the United Kingdom that top that. And the particular areas they're coming from are all the immigrant areas, and they're also there's 4 areas in 4 wards in Oldham that are in the top 10 of the worst in the country. Again, only topped by something like Tower Hamlets and Hackney in London. And the quality of life in Oldham has gone down because there's no one works, there's no money or anything like that. So, you know, it's just, and you keep hearing people saying that if we don't have immigration, the quality of life will go down. No, when we have immigration, it goes down.
Yeah, it has. It has. And the thing is, again, this is not immigration. This is population replacement. Like,
yes.
This is not like what it was, where like I mean, a sustainable level of maybe 10, 20,000 people a year, like it was for history. This is population replacement, demographic shifts on an unparalleled level, and it's just, how much longer can the establishment keep a lid on that? How much longer can it be? And you know, we see snippets of it starting to erupt, like the Hindu-Muslim conflict in Leicester, like we saw that, and then you obviously the ongoing situation in Israel-Palestine that's played out in this country as well. And I think what we're heading for is internal sort of sectarian conflict and people voting along racial and religious lines. And Johnny Adair said that Britain will end up like Northern Ireland, and that's the way it's heading, especially in England. It's heading like Northern Ireland, and you know, it's not pleasant. Like, you know, it's not nice, you know, living like that. And if you don't have that level of homogeneity of people working together, of sharing towards a common goal. I coined the term, and I talk about the Lebanonization of Britain. Like, Lebanon used to be a majority Christian country, one of the wealthiest countries in the Middle East. The Beirut was the Paris of the Mediterranean. You know, people would go there. Now look at Lebanon. You have to have a Shia prime minister. You have to have a Christian president, a Sunni chancellor or whatever, and then a Druze Arab, something like. And like, this just collapsed. You know, Lebanon, inflation's at like 4,000%. It's just a mess. It just, you can't build a society. But these people, again, these globalists, these people, like, they don't care about society. They just, you know, they've got the money. They can just go wherever they want and do whatever they want.
Well, when it comes to these like globalists, I tend to view them more like traitors when it comes to the country, because these are the same people who will preach about globalism and, of course, like being pro-refugee and all of that, but never once have they actually faced the reality of immigration when it comes to these areas, more specifically in white working class areas.
Correct.
You know, because the white working class areas will tell these people, look, this is what's going on, especially in places like Rotherham and Telford with the whole grooming gang scandal. I know that seems a bit of a cliche to mention, but it's true. It really just goes to show that the extremity of what these people go through regarding to this whole immigration thing. But these pro-refugee or like globalists, whatever you want to call them, they just don't give a damn. They just don't care, because they live in their whole ivory. I'm trying my best not to swear, but when it comes to the stream, but they live in these like ivory towers, and we'll tell them that, oh, diversity is all great in that, and then of course when you ask them, oh, where are you from, and then they'll probably say like
Cotswolds.
Yeah, like in like a white majority area, they'll have like maybe a Pakistani shop or a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, "Oh, well, that's diversity, that's multiculturalism," and it's like,
I know, isn't it wonderful? I know, and I think I talked about this with you, John. There is a class element to this as well. It was because it was white working class girls that were being raped by the rape gangs. People just weren't as bothered. You know, if that was happening in Surrey, like, I guarantee you there would have been something done about it. And there is a real class element to this, and you cannot doubt that. And that's why I really hate the Conservative Party, because they pander to people and throw them a morsel from the table, and people think they're going to do something about it, but they don't. They just seek to have power. It is a vile situation, and as you say, they don't like. It's like Piers Morgan, like they show like that guy who came from Syria and worked in a hospital. Oh, isn't this wonderful? Well, like, how many tens of thousands don't? How many of them are just living in a hotel? How many of them have raped women? Like, don't give me your garbage. Like, it's like, not everybody who crosses the English Channel is going to be a rapist or a paedophile, right? I'm not daft, but you're going to have to address that a lot of them are. And if these people are coming from these countries that are war-torn, they've got no, they're going to be desensitized, you know, to the way we live. And that's where I'm again a bit more controversial, and I'm all for relocating these migrant camps to leafy, wealthy areas. I think that's a great policy, because, you know, waking up. But that's the other problem is, I hate this. Like that's Skegness, and people are like, oh, it's really great these people are standing up, but for fuck's sake, I mean, excuse the language, it's happening in the same island you live on, but just because it's within a 20-mile radius of you, it's terrible. And it's like, you know, I always say I'm of European descent. I'm sure most of us are. I don't like seeing what's happening to Germany, Sweden, France. You know, I hate the EU, but I care about what goes on in these countries as well. And it's just, it's horrible. Like, they really are. They're creating a hell like that. I actually joke about that in my show the other night. Maybe we're actually in hell. Like, and this is maybe we're all dead and we're in hell, and this is our punishment, having to live with this.
Well, I think that's one of the things wrong in the United Kingdom is we're all too much individual now, and just me.
I was just going to say, John, sorry, just real quick. I was
Um,
just going to say, I think that partly to do with that is all this idea of individualism. See, when it comes to like collectivism or like racial unity or anything like that at all, most of the time, especially if it's like white people, whenever there's a time white people decide, you know what, we have a right to exist and a right to self-determination and want to get together as a collective, all of a sudden, like the mainstream media, the press, the usual suspects, the small hats, that would tell the white communities, like, oh, don't do that. You don't want to be a collective. Don't you know what happened in World War II? When it, of course, it has nothing to do with that. It's a case of just, again, that racial unity. Black people are allowed to be a collective. Asian people are allowed to be a collective. Arabs or like Muslim communities, they're allowed to be a collective, but white people, they can't do it. So what happens? We then get taught with the concept of individualism. You can't be a collective. You must be individuals. Only care for yourself, maybe your family, maybe your friends and all of that, but it's you, yourself, and that's it. No one else. But then, so when it comes to, like, again, just slightly going back to the whole grooming gang scandal, obviously the people who would believe in that, they just don't care. And you think, well, why don't they care? Because it's not happening in their back garden. See, as David brought up earlier on, if it was happening in Surrey, like maybe somewhere near those areas, then that's when they start to give a shit. That's when they start caring. But again, partly to do with the problem just now is partly to do with it is all to do with individualism. And I think it's about time we say enough is enough. Individualism has got us in this mess in the first place. Well, maybe part of the problem, but you just need to tell the truth with that.
On you go, John. Sorry.
It has. If you look at when Myra Hindley and Brady was when they were going to court, the streets were lined up.
That's right.
And on that street, in the lineups was everybody from a particular street. Then the next street. Then the next street. It weren't just one or two people out of their houses. Everybody, every mum and dad came out with the kids and were all throwing stuff. We just don't have that no more. There's none of it in the UK.
I mean, I talk about this a lot as well. Look, every invention, idea, or things always comes from an individual. And you have to look after yourself and you have to look after your family. But you can't just live in splendid isolation. And you cannot have the attitude, well, as long as I'm all right, bugger everyone else. Because that's equally as vile. And there does come a time where you have to. I mean, I try and think, how do we? I use the term work together rather than collectivize, because, like, again, like, white people just they hear the term collectivize, they sort of. Whereas, if I say, well, we need to all work together, people are a bit, well, yeah, let's work together. It's just, again, it's hard to break down that programming and break down that if you're a white person, you're not allowed to talk with other white people about race. Like, again, it's like, it's so ridiculous. The double standards are ridiculous. Like, the double standards about everything, though, is ridiculous. It really isn't just race. Like, I don't know if you heard Rishi Sunak the other day. He was speaking about China, talking about people have a right to protest and how brave they are and like what happened to this brave journalist. And then Justin Trudeau was talking about protest being the heart. They sent out bloody stormtroopers and were attacking people with truncheons. Like, it's just the hypocrisy on everything is just across the. The jaw just drops. And like the BBC and Guardian praising these brave people in China standing up for their rights. I mean, we did that and we were called granny killers. So it really just shows you, if you're standing up for your rights as for freedom or for race, like, I think the media and they just hate you. And we need to keep getting that into our head. They hate you.
Well, this is like part of what I was going to mention with that is for me, regarding to that, and yeah, I thought it was completely ridiculous that Trudeau and all of that were just like, oh, isn't it just so brave of these Chinese people to protest? It's like, wait, what? Wait, what's going on here? But then it kind of dawned on me and thinking, like, well, hold it a minute. Yeah, people gaslighting, like, people might think, well, it's all to do with hypocrisy. But my theory with that, I think it's more to do with hierarchy. So whenever, say, like with the British people at the time when COVID was all going on, everyone was doing protests and all of that. Like, oh, it's shameful what you people are doing. You're granny killers. Like, you're going to kill grandma with the coof. But yeah, when the Chinese do it, or anyone that's possibly non-British or non-white, then all of a sudden, well, that's them expressing their democracy. That's
right.
them like expressing their freedom. So I think it's not necessarily to do, which I'm not saying like you're wrong or anything like that at all. Obviously, I can see why people would say it's hypocrisy, but for me, and I don't know about anyone else, but
No,
I tend to see it more as like
it's a brilliant
hierarchy
point.
than
It is
hypocrisy.
I remember at the start of the Ukraine conflict, Orla Guerin was over there, and she was talking about these people are fighting for their blood. They're giving their blood to defend their soil. That's blood and soil nationalism. If a British person was to talk about blood and soil nationalism, you'd have fucking Prevent on the phone to you.
It would be like Oswald Mosley 2.0. Is like, oh no, this is the fascist. What's going on here?
No, but that's it. They're defending their borders. They're shedding their blood for their land. I mean, so that's allowed. I just think as well, like so many people have just given up. Like you can tell, like even like Boris Johnson, he just gave up on this country. Oh well, we can just shill for Ukraine. I think it just happens. It is that alienation, that demoralization that, oh, well, we can, and that happens with all countries. You know, if people fetishize about the Israel-Palestine conflict on both sides, and I mean, at the end of the day, like, really, what's it got to do with us? Or it's like, well, oh, there's an uprising over here. Well, so what? Like, there's uprisings all over the world. Whereas, you know, like for me, I was always very focused on New Zealand, Canada, Australia, because these are our like sister nations. You know, these are, and I want everyone to live in freedom. But you are so right about that. It's a fetishization, and it's like you can talk. It's a bit like blaming everyone else or not looking at yourself. You can, oh well, I'm going to get involved in this conflict. It's a bit like American politics. Like I see that as well. So many people want to get involved in like American. I mean, I'm interested in American politics, but what's it got to do with me? You know, it's important, but like, you know, I find it as an interest, but like, is it? I care about this country, and I think so many people have just switched off, and that's where guys like yourselves, and I know John, and I know Pat, and I know others, you do care about this country, and you care about the people of this country, and I can see it, and it's genuine, and it's just a shame the voters and the wider public don't see that there are genuine people out there, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone on everything in policies, but I think you can tell when someone's genuine and someone's just at it, basically.
Well, just looking to wave.
No chance. Let's get you in. So,
I know, out of sight, out of mind. Know what I mean?
going back to Scotland. So, Umzad Yousaf, obviously, his infamous speech, the white speech. Even though Scotland's well over 90% white, so you would expect more white people in them positions, but I don't know why he didn't. But I mean, he's got a checkered past. He was doing voluntary work for an Islamic foundation when they got pulled because he was giving money to a terrorist. Yeah, and so this is in Scotland. But he was only media at the time. Whether he had anything to do with it, probably. Don't know, but you know, and then his mum got £300,000 for cleaning up, going more green or something like that. And he's just a joke. He's obviously
well the proof's in the pudding, and it's 8 hours wait in the accident and emergency department, and there does come a point where you can't hide behind it anymore, and there's only so many accusations of race and that you can prove. And that's where I see us heading for like a Lebanon, Venezuela style situation where the thing's just knackered and people realize that. And as I say, I just hope that more people waken from the slumber and say, look, we need people in who are going to sort this out. We need people in who are genuine and who do actually care. But yeah, he's like that speech, and Anna Sarwar did the same as well. And you know, if you were a white person to do that about any other racial group, you would be done on hate speech charges.
Oh,
I don't agree with hate speech. I think it's a load of garbage. But you would be done.
Or the corner shops, brown.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Or who's in charge of the media? You know, you would be destroyed. And it's enough, that
there was
duplicity.
There was an SNP supporter, someone that knows him personally,
Sent him an
was
email,
kind of messaging me back and forward. His name is John Conker, stays in Kilmarnock. He was an SNP supporter, and he sent Humza Yousaf an email after he
Right, I
saw that
remember it.
white
They're
speech.
done for it.
John at the time was going through cancer treatment. He's now out the other end of it, but he saw it and he sent him an email. And the email was, I'll read it. It was, what's the latest Rebel News video on YouTube? You're the main subject, only because you're a piece of racist scum. We don't need people like you in Scotland stirring up racism, you racist piece of shit. I will share the Rebel News video to everyone and show that you're the horrible bastard you really are. Signed, John Glasgow. Now, Humza's got that guy done.
He got him done, I know. Vile.
So it's like
Vile.
it's some racially aggravated charge.
Aggravated charge, like
Yeah.
vile, like that's horrible. And again, to hide behind the law and do that to someone, like I get emails. I'm sure you guys all do as well. If you put yourself out there,
I got a cracker this morning.
you
Got
get
to go
stuff
kill
like
myself.
that. Yeah, but you just like, well, that's someone just venting. Whereas he went out and made an example of that guy and ruined his life. That's
And
just low. It's
The
low.
thing is, at the time that the police had chapped this guy's door, they took all of his electronic devices
Right, they always
to
do
go
that.
through everything. And this guy was going through cancer treatment at the time. So this guy spotted an openly anti-white speech. He's then vented, as you said, but the reason they've managed to get him on the racially aggravated charge because he said we don't need people like you in Scotland, and
That's right. But he was meaning people of his view of he was that guy was actually writing an anti-racist.
Exactly.
but
they got him because Humza's
terrible.
went, people like who? What do you mean? It's basically what do you mean, you people? It's one of those ones you're like, you knew what he meant, but you've went out your way. You've been the racist, anti-white piece of shit, and you've got this guy done with racism. So you can't even call a brown politician on his racism without the fear of the police taking all your devices and charging you.
I reckon in years to come, people will look back on this just like they did McCarthyism, the Salem witch trials, and they'll say that this was a really, really grim period in human history. And it's terrible, like doing that to people and attacking them, and like the Daily Record's another scumbag mouthpiece, and the Sun as well, and like that guy said nothing wrong. Yeah, it was maybe a wee bit near the bone, but how is that a criminal offence? It's not.
No.
Well, I mean,
can I just weigh in a sec? We've got Arlene in the chat there. Arlene, can you hear us?
Good evening, loud and clear, chaps. I have 2 words to say to you, John Adrian Lawrence. Tatty scones.
No, it's potato cakes, right? In England,
Tatty
it's
scones.
potato cakes.
No, come on, chaps. Tell them it's tatty scones.
In Scotland, it can be tatty scones. In England, it's potato cakes.
I'm sorry to say, John.
I'd say potato scone because I'm a wee bit posh.
I'm sorry to say, John,
now,
but
Mr. Clews.
see, potato cake sounds like
You
the
get
LGBT
splinters on your
version.
body when you sit on the fence, Mr. Clews.
I know, but that's the. I'm in the middle of the extreme far right. Okay, that's where I'm positioning myself.
Okay. No splinters on your body then.
None at all. You get in the middle of the road, you get run over as well.
Quite.
That's right. I do like.
Or you fall down a pothole.
I know.
Potato cakes.
Potato cakes.
Potato
What's the other one? Baps instead of a roll. That's the big one, isn't it? You eat
No,
baps.
it's got to be a roll. Sausage
It's gotta be a
roll,
roll,
bacon
isn't it?
roll, cheese roll. Yep, roll.
Roll like
Well, I am in Oldham. 260,000 people. It's potato cakes. That's what it is. Yeah.
he's
but
invoking
I mean-
democracy.
Discuss this later.
You see, that's the other thing that fed people, and it's such a lie, is that we're this. There's no diversity in this. We used to think of the diversity of accents, the diversity of history,
Right.
like before mass immigration. You know, we were a very varied country, but we all did agree and fight towards the same aims. But you know, this
Indeed.
nonsense that everybody it was like, remember Rishi Sunak, he had his 50p coin diversity built Britain, it just didn't. right? It didn't, right? This just didn't. Like, you could argue that modern Britain is built on diversity, but diversity didn't build Britain. Liars.
Well, I mean, Arlene's been through the battles. We've been up to Inverness. We met Adam Campbell, who is Scotland's most persecuted street preacher.
Yeah.
He did remember us as well when we met him once, and then he did remember us. And it was Arlene. We're going up to Inverness, and there was two young girls either side of this Adam with signs saying, I love Satan.
Yeah, we love Lucifer. I'm like, oh, you must be right proud of yourself, girls.
Yeah, very stunning and brave, those lassies.
Indeed. But they wanted to hide their faces once I started filming them. I says, what's wrong? You were very brave before it. I says, what about all those young children walking past reading that nonsense? Does that make you feel good? Yeah.
I said a wee while back that eventually the Bible would become a banned book. And it is now happening, because David Curtin had a good video about it. He was talking about it, that a street preacher, two lesbians, reported him for hate speech. He was quoting segments from the Bible. Like, that's what they'll say. The Bible's hate speech, and it's anti-LGBT. I guarantee you that's what they'll do.
Sure.
They'll try and ban it.
It's coming.
And that's part of the agenda as well, you know, just the de-Christianization of the country.
What I was going to say a minute ago, Mr. Clews, just diverting slightly. What I
always
love
get
about
into trouble when someone calls me Mr. Clews. We're always about to pin me for something.
Not at all. Just saying, I'm proud of the fact that I'm a Ouija. And what I love about us Ouijas is that we are well loved and renowned all over the world for sending ourselves up before anyone else does.
That's very, very true. That's very the amount of people that think I'm being serious sometimes is you know, they don't get
no such thing with a Ouija.
No, and in Glasgow, it's you if you like somebody, you take the piss out of them and you're nasty
there you
to
go.
them.
John, what was I saying to you the other night? Regards my father. When my father was nice to you, that's when you knew he didn't like you. Yeah.
Right, guys, I'm going to head off now because I've got to get back. I've got to get back to my wee boy and the dogs. So I'll need to head off now, John.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Nice chatting, Mr. David Clews. And you're not in trouble.
Thank you very much.
Take care, David.
My pleasure. Cheers, everybody. Good night. Thanks, guys. Really good chat. Really enjoyed it. I'd love to have done more. We'll do it again. Okay.
Yes.
No worries.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Love you.
Right, I'll pop off two chaps and leave yous alphas to it for a bit and go and sort my stuff out. Speak later.
This is the
Take care.
Women Haters Club.
Excuse me?
I'm kidding. That was a Little Rascals reference.
Right, later, guys. Cheers.
Right, take care.
Arlene, thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. It's an hour's gone, and we'll probably wrap it up now. But thank you very much. And I mean, like I said, there's a lot to talk about in Scotland. I think a lot of the stuff going on there is a lot worse than what is going on here. Your hate speech laws are absolutely ridiculous, and stuff like that. But then again, on the other side of it, I have seen another side. I'll just quit. So we know that, like in the 90s, Glasgow and that was big on knife crime and stuff like that, and they sort of like changed the law, didn't they? But we've had a bit of this. We was in Wetherspoons, me, Arlene, and her son, and we've come out. We're getting taxis home, and someone had followed her son out. And they got his taxi number and reported him for having a knife. And he didn't have a knife. He picked one up and put it down where it was supposed to in the club. But this guy thought that he had a knife on him. Ended up getting arrested and straight away to court. So I learned that, like, your system is a little bit different than ours. As on he went straight to, like, the main court with this charge of this knife. But it all got dropped in the end. But I know that the Scottish justice system is just a little bit different here.
Well, the London stop and search, that was all based on Glasgow, because Glasgow had a ridiculous amount of knife crime, and stop and search in Glasgow did it greatly reduced it. So
Yeah.
then they saw the success in Glasgow and thought, right, we can then replicate that in London. But because obviously the knife crime in London is majority black, it then get turned into well, this is a racist law. And you're like, no, well, in Glasgow, they were stopping people that looked a certain way, which was young boys in tracksuits that looked like they were up for trouble. So people were getting stereotyped and kind of boxed off into well, you know what I'm getting at. So and the same thing applied in London. So they're going to go where the crime is. And if it does happen to be a majority black issue, that's what they're going to tackle. It's not racism. And if it was a majority Polish issue in London, they'd be looking for certain people wearing certain clothes because Polish people tend to wear, distinct clothing. Do you know what I mean? So that they would.
It's
that's what they go for.
We've gone like this, so it's crazy, it's like when you can profile anyone. They have profiles on certain kinds of people and stuff like that, and a certain kind of person who does a particular crime will probably look like the other kind of people who do that crime as well. He might be a burglar, so he's going to be small and skinny, or something like that. But you're right. But it is a I mean, we had it in Manchester. There was a 16-year-old killed in Bury, and a couple of weeks later, we had one of the mayor's question times, and the chief constable come. First thing I said to him, said about this death in Bury, what are you doing about it? And he said, well, we brought stop and search out, and we've been stopping and searching teenagers at the age of 15 because it was 15-year-olds who killed the 15-year-old, and I don't think they didn't particularly pick on any particular colour because the crimes involved various mix, but they went after all the kids, and they said that they did stop and search for 2 weeks, and during that 2 weeks, even though they warned all the kids, they were still out with knives. You just couldn't make it up, But they do need to work more on it,
but that makes sense, John. Like if the crime involved a mixed group of people, you wouldn't profile based on race. You would stop anyone that fits that teenage profile. Whereas if it was a certain race, you would prioritise that. It just makes sense in terms of policing. If you don't do it that way, you're just wasting time, energy, resources. You're costing the taxpayer more money. It should just be, let's look for the perpetrators. And some people might get caught up in the kind of crossfire, but it's part of policing the community, and community policing is a big thing that it's away now. People don't know their local police anymore. When I was coming up, we knew the local boys in the area, and there was that kind of mutual respect where they would kind of maybe let you away with some things, whereas if you were maybe being a bit too much, they would hammer down on you, and it was a relationship you had with the police. Whereas now they're just, I think Dave said earlier, they're just like stormtroopers. That's what they are. No one has respect for them. There's no first name terms. There's no understanding of what they go through, what we go through. It's backwards.
Yeah, it is. I want to have respect for the police. I want to have faith that they can work right, but they're corrupt. It's just come out that the vetting police wrongly, and they're accepting sex offenders, crooks and gangsters into the police force, by the way, which I've been screaming for 2 years about this vetting thing. And I want to have faith, but there is no, I can't. They're failing on all levels. They're picking on people wrongly. During COVID, I don't know if people seen this, but there was a member of parliament walking through London, and the police were manhandling a little old lady who didn't have a mask on. You know what I mean? And there was 3 policemen there, and they put her in the back of the van, but they were sort of manhandling her, and how can we have faith in the police when we see them doing stuff like that, and we see how they are all over the country?
That's someone's mum, someone's granny, and there's just zero respect. I know it's a kind of bog standard thing to say, but respect is earned. It's not just given. If they're not respecting the public, they can't expect the public to have much respect for them. And if they're not policing in a common sense way, where, I don't know, someone is having prime example actually in Glasgow. I used to work with a couple of gay boys, right? And they were out in this gay pub in Glasgow, and they were out having a smoke, And one of the gay guys said to the other gay one and called him a faggot. And then someone overheard it and called the police. And the police have arrived and they've had to take a statement. And the boys are like, well, I'm a faggot, like we're both gay. Like, and like, that should have been a common sense thing. Two gay guys outside a gay bar smoking. And they're like, is this a hate crime? Is everyone okay? You're like, fucking get a grip of yourself.
Right, well, anyway, thank you very much, guys, and everyone in the chat. It's been really good, interesting. We'll certainly do it again sometime. I mean, I've travelled a bit, so I went to Kenmure Street where Chris Donald were killed, and that was in 2018. Did my own little video there, and I'm well aware of particular cases around Scotland. I mean, Yousaf was a justice minister, and he never got justice for the lad who got sexually assaulted in school by other lads in Scotland. He never got no justice for them, and the family were crying for him. Let's hope we can get better people into who can do the positions, who can work better in our councils and MSPs. And Scotland, you need to vote that SNP out. You really do, guys. You'll be wondering what's happened to your country in the next few years and why you didn't do anything.
Now, I know you're wrapping up, John, but just before you do it, there was a documentary about racism in Scotland that aired, I think, in Channel 4. And they were going through about all these racist cases where a lot of them are like sceptical. Like Sheco Bayo, he overdosed and died in police custody. Like, there's no racism there, but they've opened that investigation to try and find out what the police were thinking at the time. But then through that full documentary, there was not one mention of Chris Donald. And he was the first racially motivated murder in Scotland. And they didn't even mention him, didn't utter his name. Even his sister came out disgusted.
Yeah, well, with the Chris Donald thing, you can actually say that was an actual racial motivated attack. But again, a case like that gets swept under the rug because with the mainstream media, I'll just make this quick point real quick. What the mainstream media tends to try and do is that they try to make this this sort of BS narrative that, you know, Britain and mainly Scotland are like are majorly historically racist countries, like, you know, like throughout the years and all of that. But then, of course, when it comes back, the actual evidence that actually it's not what that is the case, is actually the contrary. Then they'll just sweep like the Chris Donald thing. They'll just sweep under the rug because they know if they were to bring that up, it would completely shatter that whole narrative.
Well, you know, I mean, there's obviously going to be stuff done again. When I'm in Glasgow, I'm going to visit Chris Donald's plaque and stuff and his bench and all that. I'll do that, and so I won't stop talking about him. And you know, like, and it'll be something that we can use against the media to show how two-faced the media are. But thank you very much, everyone. It's been great, lovely having you all on. At least there weren't that much of a fight over potato cakes and tatty scones, but I'm still saying potato cakes because I'm in England. She can say tatty scones all she likes. But thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Cheers, John. You're a good man. Thanks.
Thanks, pal. Thank you.
Thanks very much.